and now we need the Prozacs and the all the other names of this, all the other names and the psychiatrists like Dr. Phil, and we look into these daytime shows, these soap operas, for them to fix, to help fix our mind, or help to contain our mind in this fantasy world. And what we have to realize that what we're expecting to happen is unrealistic. It cannot happen that way. And the moment that we realize that our expectations and our sense of entitlement is what is doing the damage, then we can say, okay, whatever we want to work towards, we are going to have to work for it in order to get it. No one can liberate you. You have to liberate yourself. And if you don't, if you're waiting on someone to come and save you, which is what the fairy tales and later on sometimes religion makes you become complacent, it carries over. And so I'm waiting on someone to come, then my children are waiting on someone to come, and we're become stagnant. We're never going to get anywhere at that pace. We have to realize, and especially now that we are in the information era, information is at your fingertips with the internet. You don't have to say, I have to fly way across the world to find out about our ancient cultures. We don't have to travel to each country in Africa and speak to each tribe or each clan or each region or each type of people, whether the Kan people or the Mandi people. We don't have to we don't necessarily have to do that. It's good to travel, but we can go. We have all this research that's right there at our fingertips. And so there really is no excuse at this age, at this day and time, for us not to. And the reason why we go out and we travel to teach people is to open up people's minds. Sometimes there are people that might not know where to look or know where to start or know what the problem is. And so we're there to enlighten them and to teach them, look, you see those stories that we're reading them? Bad idea. We have our stories that many in the Caribbean would know, or the stories from ancient Africa, like the Spider-Man tales, which is called Anansi the Spider. There's many, many, many tales, not just from the various tribes in Africa, but you also have some from the Native Americans. You also have various tales from various ancient cultures, which taught where the moral of the story was, like say with Anansi of the Spider, the moral of the story was to work, because Anansi was always trying to find some way to trick somebody into doing the work for him, and so that he can sit back and relax. We've relaxed long enough. We need to get up now and say, let's do this so that our children can benefit. I'm sorry. No, go. And what we have to realize ourselves, people say, oh, well, I'm one person. We all are one person, but if we all work together, different backgrounds, different cultures, if everyone works together, we will get there. And just because you are one person doesn't excuse you from your responsibility to your people, to humanity, in order to make the world a better place. You might do it in a different way than I do it. You might go and say, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to help the hungry. I'm going to go and help feed the hungry. Another person might say, well, you know what, I'm going to become a teacher so that I can teach these children that are coming up the right stories, and I'm not teaching them the fairy tales, so that they have a chance of having a better life, and they can take it to the next step when they get older. So each of us have to take on that responsibility to say, I'm going to do my part, and then we pass that on. Now,
Dr. Morris, you know, in England, there's a black psychologist, Dr. Maxim, and she's based in Liverpool, coincidentally. But she's one of the leading black child psychologists in England, and she did some research. You know, in England, they got this class of people they've created, an underclass they call them half castes, people my complexion who don't have a racial identity. These children tend to underachieve in the school system. You know, in England they started a Saturday school program, and what they did, they empowered these children. First of all, they make them recognize their black identity, that they could connect with their ancestors, and they also gave them the type of historical background that you've been talking about, the knowledge and the information they needed to empower themselves. And you know, her research shows that within a very short time, these children who had been having D grades with low self-esteem, once they had an empowered vision of themselves, they began to excel. So I think, you know, that there is research on the ground that meets out everything you're saying. But in terms of Africa now, Dr. Varmah, and I know and I don't want to leave this out because you are from Liberia, and Liberia is one of the sources of conflict on the continent. As a matter of fact, it's hard to look from north to south. I'm looking at the map behind you now, and from east to west, I just want to weep, because I don't think there's a piece of ground where I ain't gonna see some blood flowing or some child suffering in that continent. But in terms of Liberia itself, the ongoing conflict, has that had anything to do with emulation of Europe, the buying into the Western fairy tale, a rejection of traditional cultures? Is that...
Well, what often happens, and I think Elder Ali mentioned it, in Liberia, let's say, for example, they haven't had the war stopped some years now, and we have a new president, Dr. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and she's doing certain things and the best that she can. But what often happens on the African continent, happens in Latin America as well, right, and as well as here in the Caribbean, is oftentimes we have leadership that's placed there. We have leaders, and then we have leading blacks. We have black leaders, and we have leading blacks. The black leaders are those who are not going to say what's accepted and expected by the powers that be. The leading blacks are those oftentimes placed in those positions or allowed to
That's our government. That's our government you're talking about, man. That's the PLP and F&M. That's them. You must know them.
Well, this is what we found around the globe. And now that what we say, I won't say it's the government. It's certain people within all governments.
Okay.
Because you have people within every government that are working for what's best for the people.
That's right.
But if we don't support those types of people, and I'm not getting into the politics of any country because I don't know.
Well, I don't want to leave you in a trap, but I can say it. That's our people.
Okay. Right. But let's say, in Liberia, the problem there was just that. You have leadership placed in, and then when it's their time to give it up. I went to a function about 2 months ago, and a gentleman was making a joke. He's an African, and he was from Liberia, and he says, why is it that Africa has no living former presidents? And everybody was stunned. Well, Africa doesn't have any former living presidents. He said, because they become president for life.
Well, that's not true. You got one. You got one man, Nyerere.
But
I mean, he's a prime example of what we should be doing.
And former President Nelson Mandela.
And President
Thabo Mbeki.
Yeah.
But the point that he was making was, if we, again, back to that fairy tale, somewhere along the line we start off with good ideas, whether it's political, religious, socially. We start off with an idea that says what? I want to do what's best for the people. Somewhere along the line, money gets involved, and we forget the purpose.
Dr. Varmah, it seems like we are running out of time, but just before we conclude our show today, it's really gone very, very fast.
Just a break.
Oh, it's a break? You know, I'm getting old, you know.
No.
Y'all better send me some memory pills and along with those donations when you send us a sponsor. Thank you. We'll be right back. We take a break. Thank you. I really